All right, guys, welcome back to Always Moving Forward. I'm pretty excited about today. Today we have Nikki Gist on the show. Nikki is someone I met on Facebook. She is the host of a podcast called 3RD&3. She's witty, she's funny, she is um, not afraid to speak her mind, which is what I really like about the show. So, we're gonna get on here. We're gonna, talk to her, get to learn more about her and her journey, and find out what got her into doing sportscasting, and then some of the things that she's faced on the way, and then what she's currently working on. So, that's kind of been our format. So, with that, I also want to thank everybody too for subscribing this week. We have that goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers. We're really getting close to hitting that goal. So I want to thank you guys for all you're doing to help us with that. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce Nikki Gist. How you doing, Nikki?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So, I just kind of wanted to bring you on. Like I said, I met you on Facebook, and I saw that you had a podcast. So I listened to a couple of the episodes, and you sold me on it. I loved the podcast.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So, and then one of the things I really like about the podcast is I think your personality really makes it.
Well, thank you. I'm going to have you on my show so you can tell the guys that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? We'll start with where you're born and raised and what life is like as a kid, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So, born and raised in Jersey. And I've been here my whole life. So grew up, if anybody is familiar with the Toms River area in New Jersey, I know a lot of people know it from Jersey Shore. So I will reference Seaside. Actually, fun fact, if anybody watched the episode where Snooki got punched in the face, I was there that day. And I've watched it a million times to see if I could see myself, but I can't.
Wow.
But to see that up close and live was pretty wild. So yeah, now I live in Red Bank. If anybody is familiar with that, it's a great little city in Monmouth County that's not too far from the beach, not too far from the city, not too far from Philly. So I kind of get the best. Well, Philly's not great, but I kind of get the best of all worlds here. So yeah, kind of been here my whole life and travel around a lot. But I can't leave because the food is so good, and I hear that pizza is terrible everywhere else. So I think I'm just going to stay put.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. So I was going to say, have you been to Chicago and tried the Chicago pizza?
No, I have not.
You haven't been to Chicago. Okay.
But you guys have that. It's like a deep dish, right?
Right. Yeah. It's that's one of the things that I miss. Like I moved from Chicago to Texas, and yeah, you can't find real pizza in Texas.
Oh,
Texas is good for barbecue, but not for pizza.
Okay, barbecue I can roll with, but not
the pizza. So, now when you grew up, when you started growing up, what kind of led you to really getting into like the sports world?
Yeah, so I started in dance when I was really young. My mom put me in dance at 2 years old. So, dance that you do when you're young, little ballet tap combo. I danced for practically my whole life. I started teaching dance for most of my 20s. Same thing with cheerleading. I started in cheerleading really young, did competitive cheerleading. I coached cheerleading. I coached all-star cheerleading. I coached youth cheerleading. Did that up until about 2 years ago. Obviously, when COVID hit, everything went a little bit crazy, and there was so much uncertainty. So I do hope to get back into coaching.
Right.
so that's really like where my sports kind of started.
Right.
And yes, I do call cheerleading and dance a sport. And, that is one of the hills, many hills I will die on. If you've ever watched my podcast, I will die on many hills, but those
Right.
two for sure. But in terms of like my love for football, that really came from my dad. Really, I mean, we just like hang out and watch football when I was little, and I just kind of took right to the sport. And of course, basketball, right? At the time, being a kid in the 90s, I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. So I had like
Right.
my Bulls starter jacket. I mean, we just sit and watch Bulls games all the time. I mean, I always joke, I always say like girls would have pictures of like heartthrobs on their, wall, like posters and stuff. Well, I
Right.
had like the Olympic Dream Team and Michael Jordan. So I probably should have known then that this is where life was going to take me. But I
Wow.
would just sit with my dad and watch football and ask him questions, and he would just be like, Nick, just he'd explain the game but tell me to watch and learn. And I really truly credit him, because without him, I don't have a podcast. They don't have all these guest opportunities. They don't have the opportunity to cover sports like I do for Jersey Sporting News and partner with Right On Sports that helps underprivileged kids learn about the love of writing through sports. So I've been afforded so many opportunities, and I sure do thank my dad all the time for just kind of sitting with me and teaching the game. And he is my biggest fan. I know that for sure.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And I think that more dads should do that. Sit down with their daughters and teach them more about sports too. So, like I love sports. Obviously I'm a big football and basketball fan. Being in Dallas, I gotta go with my Dallas Cowboys and I gotta go with my Dallas Mavericks.
Oh,
But yeah, but I was born and raised in Chicago during the Michael Jordan era. So I grew up
very cool.
watching Michael.
Yeah.
And actually, that was really one of the first games I ever went to, is to see Michael Jordan play. And it was when Michael Jordan had just started, so he wasn't like the Michael Jordan everybody knew. He was just
Right.
this young guy hitting the scene. And they were playing against the Detroit Pistons, bad boys.
Oh
Um,
man.
so that was
Great game.
and I was so young, I didn't realize the greatness I was in, being able to watch that game.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome. And you'll remember
so
that forever, right? So
oh, definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And then you walk away and you're like, man, that guy, Michael Jordan's going to be somebody special.
I know. Who's
Right.
this guy? I know,
Right.
it's funny. This is not related to sports, but kind of it's similar. So you know who Nicki Minaj is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was at a Britney Spears concert, and at the time, Nicki Minaj was like kind of known, not
Right.
really. So she was Britney's opener, and I remember going like, "Wow, she's gonna be big one day." Like, kind of the same thing. You have
Right.
no
Right.
idea. I'm like, "Oh, I saw her when she was like practically nobody." So I get
Yeah.
that. It's funny when you look back and you see these people who up and come, and you're like, "Oh wow, I saw them when
Right.
they were no one knew really who they were."
Yeah. It's just interesting. And then, of course, during that whole time, the whole era of being a Bulls fan, I mean, that was just the whole thing that got me with the Bulls is after they blew the Bulls up afterwards. And that was like a knife in my heart. So, yeah, they sent everybody away. So,
I
um,
know.
then I moved to Dallas, and it took me a minute, but I finally became a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Well, how long did that take to switch allegiances? Is
Yeah,
a
it
big
took a
deal.
long time.
Okay.
It took until when they brought Dirk in,
Yeah.
um, you know, and then I got to see the type of player Dirk was. Dirk's just hard not to fall in love with as a player.
Yeah. I feel like the NBA is like that, right? Like
Yeah,
it's more like I'll follow a player type
right,
of, you know what I mean? So yeah, like I was just like all in on Michael Jordan. But like I said, being kid in the 90s, it was like, what else are you going to do? And then obviously became a long suffering Knicks fan, right? So
right,
it was like you switch allegiances. But I feel like the NBA is still like that today, right? Especially with these kids. They're like, follow LeBron wherever, follow Steph Curry ever,
right.
wherever these guys go, that's what they do. I think the NFL's kind of like that, but not really. So I feel like it's more of
Yeah,
an NBA thing.
yeah. Because you could lose a player in the NFL, and it really doesn't make you switch a team.
Right.
Yeah, like it does in the NBA. I think
Right.
the NBA is a little bit different, like in that regards. So, um, Now, growing up, so you were into the dance,
Mm-hmm.
and you were coaching.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of led you to getting into? Well, you talked about your dad.
Yeah.
Talked to you about football, and
Yeah.
so what kind of got you wanting to be like a sportscaster in that? What kind of drew your attention to that?
Well, I didn't really ever think I would do this.
Right,
So my the two guys that I co-host with, we started it about 2 years ago during COVID, and I mean height of COVID. Remember when the NBA shut down and
right,
all sports were like, no NCAA tournaments not happening. I mean, nothing was going on. Now we have known each other because we're in a fantasy league together. We do picks league together. You know how that goes. You're with the same people for like your entire life. So Jason, one of my co-hosts, he had a podcast. Damien had a podcast, and Jason said to me, "Hey Nick, would you come on one day and just talk about the Giants?" And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, what do you mean? Come on, talk about the Giants. So just come on and talk about them. I'm like, okay, literally just have to talk. Like that's all you want me to do? And he's like, yeah, just come on and talk. No big deal. Okay, so
right,
I come on and talk. And he's like, no, you did really good. You're natural. And I'm like, no. You're just being polite. Thank you so much. And I just didn't think anything of it.
right.
So then he was like, well, I'm going to get my friend Damien on. Would you be willing to come on and do like a three-way podcast? So I was like, if you guys will have me, sure, I guess. Like, so come on, and we do it. And people were like, well, this is cool. I mean, is this like a new show? And at the time we were like, well, no, we're just kind of messing around, but I guess so. And so out of that, 3RD&3 was born. And we used to do audio only. And then, we've grown into, being on camera and having a live show. And I mean, now you fast forward, like I had mentioned, all these different opportunities that have come my way, which I am
Right.
so grateful for. But now we're posting, show clips, and I know you've seen some of them and on my
Right.
TikTok, and some of them are funny, and the show is crazy, and we don't rehearse. We roll with it. We know what we're going to talk about topic wise, but we don't
Right.
know what each other's ever going to say, obviously. So I never really thought I would get into this, but it has opened so many doors and so many opportunities to cover sports and be guests on different podcasts. And really, what I hope to do with this platform is highlight women in sports. And because it's not easy. It's not easy for, the student athletes, the professional athletes. It's not easy for women in sportscasting, or even if you're on a podcast. So I really do try to use my platform to highlight women in sports, because this is something that's very near and dear to my heart.
Wow. And I was going to ask you about that too, because I feel like I know a lot of women athletes as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that they get a fair shake in the sports world. And what do you think? What do you think one of the reasons for that might be?
Well, I think it's exposure, right? So
Right,
women professional sports, they only get 4% of media exposure. So,
right,
which is crazy because they're projected to make billions of dollars. So I kind of put a little blame of that on the media. So why
right,
can't we highlight more women in sports? I mean, you just look at it in my world, in the cheer world, in the dance world, we get what? Once a year in the spring, we all see it on ESPN, Disney. There's so much more in that world and in that space, and I think it's a lot of it is a stigma, right? I mean, a lot of times women aren't taken as seriously. And I say that so a little bit of my background. So I was a construction project manager for 10 years, which most people don't think that that's what I would do for a living. And I don't now. I have my own marketing company that specializes in the green industry and the construction industry. But having that background for so long and that network really was what was able to propel my business forward. So when we talk about women in like male dominated industries, I look at like my career, my professional career. I look at like my sports broadcasting career. And it really has been difficult. And I think a lot of times women don't get a fair shake, and sometimes they're not taken seriously. And I could have all the credentials in the world. I have all
right.
my certificates, all my education. And, it took a long time for me to be taken seriously professionally. which is sad. So I think there's a little bit of a stigma in terms of sports. I do wish the media would cover it more. Actually, for instance, a few days ago, I was watching the women's, track and field, which was amazing. And yet, I feel like nobody was talking about it. So I think it's on women too. We all have a responsibility, and men, I probably should have live tweeted that to kind of get the word out as well. So we all play a part in trying to turn around the narrative.
Yeah, and it's just, to me, it's kind of disappointing because there's so many talented women out there, and if given the chance and the right exposure, I mean, I think that the women's sports would do just fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's sad, and it's a fight, right? It's a fight every day, and it's I can imagine, especially if a woman is working in sports. I would imagine there's some sports organizations out there that are incredibly toxic. Commanders, right? Like, I mean, I would not that they would, ask me to work for them, but that's an organization I would never, ever work for.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's partly on the leagues too, I think the NBA, when it comes to social issues, when it comes to some of these, like the NFL, you look at some of these domestic violence issues, sexual harassment issues that go on. There are certain leagues who have zero tolerance for it,
Right.
and certain leagues that it's different rules for everybody. And so you're kind of alienating your fan base a little bit. And I've said it on my show, I struggle with it. I don't really love the way the NFL handles some of these things.
Right.
Commanders, that's one. We don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. And aside from that, I do think that, 30 women coming forward is a little, what's going on there.
Right.
But I struggle because it's like, of course I'm going to watch football. So it's tough. I think there's many factors that go into it, and, none of us are perfect, but, I do try to use my platform as best as I can for women in sports.
So, like, now, talking about like the WNBA, what is there something they could do to help market, like get out there and really market? Because like we have a WNBA team here in Dallas, but you never hear anything about them.
Yeah, no, I you know what it is too? It's like, and I kind of think about it like baseball. You don't have a face to put. There's no household name, right? We all know Brittany Griner. Okay, who else do you know?
Not really anybody.
No, nobody.
It didn't used to be that way, because I mean, you used to have some WNBA players that you could say a name in there, and you would recognize, like Leslie.
Oh, of course.
So I mean, you have people out there that that, well, it used to be that you know their name, but I guess after the pandemic, I can't tell you one person, honestly.
I know. And isn't that sad? And there's so many talented women on these teams that they're just not getting the exposure. And, I'm sure that all comes down to money, right? Like, where are the ad dollars going? It's going to men's basketball, men's college basketball. It's going to the NCAA tournament. There's so many up and coming talented women in all sports in college and high school, and they're never going to get their fair exposure. And I really, really hope I can be a part of changing that in some way, somehow.
Right. And that's kind of why I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And I know that, some of the topics you talk about, you get the hate mail and, some of these.
Oh, yeah, sure. Of course they do.
Out of control fans who, give you a hard time and, are pretty rude to you. But, I like what you do. I think it's, that you're funny, you're feisty, you say what you're trying in your mind. You know what I mean? And that's great. That's great, because it's good for you to get up there and do that.
It's not easy.
It makes the show fun.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not easy because it's interesting you bring up the hate mail. I know we talk about it, and we know that I made the Cowboys fans mad a couple weeks ago, which was fine, right? Because hey, guess what? That drove traffic to my show, my articles, my website, right? It did what it was supposed to do. I truly, really do feel like that. I do have Dak Prescott out of the top 10. So it wasn't just a ploy. I really did feel like that. But what's funny is, and sometimes my co-hosts get it, but, I'll get it right away. Oh, why are you talking about football? You're a woman. Like, this is
Right.
why women shouldn't talk about football. And it's like, you wouldn't say that to my male counterparts. You may
Exactly.
disagree with them,
Right.
but it would never be like, well, you're a man, you shouldn't talk about football. Never, ever.
Right.
So you're right. They come like a rabbit at you. And it's not easy to put yourself out there for anyone behind a screen to just say, hey, Nikki, you suck. And it's like, okay, why don't you come on here and do it? And let's see how you do.
Right.
It's not easy. So, but you know what? I take it in stride because, it's like somebody's just being a hater, and that's fine.
Right. And, like I said, I'm a Cowboys fan. And
yes, I'm
of
aware.
of course, I think Dak should be in the top 10. But, there's no reason to be rude. I mean,
Yeah,
the way
well,
people come across. And I apologize for the Dallas Cowboy fans who came across rude.
thank you.
I apologize on their behalf. So,
Yes.
because like I said,
Joking is one thing, and I could take a joke and this and that,
right,
and that's all good and fine. We joke about it offline, and we have our, joke and we laugh about it. And listen, I could take a lot of it, but you come at somebody and say you suck and you don't
right,
belong talking about
yeah,
sports. It's like, all right, that's kind of uncalled for.
yeah. No, it's nothing personal. Yeah, I mean, like when you're making the your predictions, it's not personal. It's not
No.
towards them. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
and everybody's everybody's entitled to their opinion in there. Yeah. So I'm fine with it. So and I'm glad you're out there doing what you do. So
Thank you.
um, so now as we're talking about that, um, being a woman in sports, doing sports casting and um, the way that people receive you, how are you able to overcome some of that?
Um, I think I naturally just kind of have a thick skin, and I think that's because of my professional
Right.
life of what I do. There's no crying in baseball, there's no crying at work, and especially if you're in an industry, something as tough as construction, and to be a woman and you have to manage these multi-million dollar projects. It's a certain personality, right? So I think that's part of my nature, and I think it's just part of what I've had to deal with over the past 10, 11, 12 years. And you kind of just become a little jaded and a little hardened. And not that that's great, but it allows things to just kind of bounce off you and you keep going. And I think you
Right.
just have to keep things in perspective. Like, a lot of times people will come at me and, there's no picture, it's like just some troll. And, we have the joke, don't feed the trolls. But, with the negative comes a lot of positive, comes people like you who, support what I do, and comes people who will defend me on Twitter, or who will, just be supportive. And that's the beautiful side of it. That's the great side of it. The negative side, I guess you just have to, if you're going to put yourself out there, expect that it will come your way at some point, but take it where it's coming from, right? It's coming from somebody who's sitting behind a keyboard, who doesn't have,
Exactly.
the balls to come out there and put themselves out there. So I try to keep things in perspective.
Right. Hey, it kind of reminds me. I interviewed a friend of mine. His name's Dave Thomas, who's a author, and we talked about facing critics like that, and he told me that the way that he does it is he has pretty much an inner circle, a group that their opinions really matter to him.
Mm-hmm.
So when he looks at the comments and from posts that he shares, when he looks at the negative stuff, he tries to determine where it's coming from.
Yeah.
If it's not somebody from his inner circle, then and that's giving him a negative feedback, it really doesn't bother him as much because it's not somebody he really knows enough to really care about their opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
that's kind of how he put it in perspective. And I think, that's a great way to look at it because there's so many people that watch their comments, at the end of a show, and you could get 1,000 great comments, people loving your show. And there's that one person that gives you that negative feedback that you end up, just, it just gets you. It's that one person.
The one. It's always that one, and you
Right.
fester about it, and it's like, but I had all these people say, "Hey, great show." This it almost doesn't matter, and it's kind of crazy, but yeah, the more you can work on just like not really care. I naturally am like I don't give a rat's butt type of person about what you
Right.
think about what anybody thinks, so that helps, but it gets tough sometimes. You don't want to
Yeah.
hear like negative things about yourself. Now, constructive criticism is fine, but
Right.
just to come at somebody and be like, you suck, you're horrible, it's like, okay, well, what are you basing that on? You watch like 10 minutes of one show, so
Right.
or a hot take that you didn't agree with. So
Wow. So so now, like when you're doing your shows and you're it looks like you guys are doing really well with the program. And I'm guessing that the majority of your following is behind you and what you're doing.
yes.
And they respect what what you're doing. So now when you guys come up with these predictions,
Mhm.
how do you guys base that? Tell me what that process is, if
Well,
there's a process.
well, that's the thing. See, I know you're a fan of the show. There's really no process. No. So what we'll do is we will, we'll kind of talk like the couple days before, we go to air live on Wednesdays at 7. So usually Sundays we'll touch base in the off season and just kind of like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? Anything on your mind? Or sometimes we'll see like a ranking list. That's some of these ranking lists that I've been seeing floating around on Twitter have been whack. So sometimes we'll do our own. But as far as like the criteria of how we rank something or how we predict something, that's what's cool about the show is we each come up with our own rhyme or reason why we did. And sometimes I can be a homer about it and I'm okay with that. And I'll put it out there and that's okay. Then I expect like, oh, you didn't put any thought into that. But sometimes I'm just trying to, I don't know, lighten it up, be funny. But for the most part, I do have like rhyme or reason as to why I'm ranking somebody somewhere or why I'm predicting something. And I usually back everything up. But as far as like how we get there, I don't know what their process is. I know what my process is, but I have no idea how they get to theirs.
Cool. So let me ask you this then.
Mm-hmm.
With all the people that you watch in the league,
Mm-hmm.
is there any particular player that you would like to meet in person and actually like get to know and talk to and maybe interview? I have on the show.
Yes, Eli Manning. I think like if you've watched my show, if you know
Mm-hmm.
me, I am a huge Eli fan. That's the third hill I'll die on. That Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. Everyone can come at me for that one. I do not care. I will go all day with it. No, but you know what? Hall of Famer aside, he's a Giants legend. He helped get us 2 Super Bowls because football is the ultimate team sport. You know what? It wasn't luck. Okay, there's some talent there. I know people like to say, "Oh, he got lucky," but just what he does within the community. I know he does so much for children with cancer, and he's just an all-around good guy. So aside from being a fan, which is funny because when you do this, you have to take the fan side out of it, which can be hard sometimes, right? Because inside you're gonna be like, oh my God, but you can't do that. So I would absolutely love to meet him and talk to him, and I would say have a beer, but I don't like beer. I'm more of a vodka girl. So have a cocktail with them, and just like shoot the breeze. I think that would be so cool.
So I'm going to make an admission here.
Okay.
I'm going to admit something. As a Cowboys fan, which where you oppose the Giants,
yes,
but probably the most anticipated game that I've watched on for NFL was Eli facing the Patriots with Tom Brady, and I can tell you right now, I have never rooted for somebody more than I rooted for Eli to beat Tom Brady. I rooted for him so much. I went out and bought a brand new TV just to watch the Super Bowl, so I could see Eli beat Tom Brady.
I love it. I love that. Coming from a Cowboys fan, I love it.
Coming from a Cowboys fan,
wow.
And that's probably the most I've ever, other than of course for Dak, but yeah, that's probably the Super Bowl that I was most excited about.
Yeah.
And it's just the way that the media portrayed Tom Brady to be this, superhero guy, and how they just downplayed Eli Manning so bad.
Oh
Yeah.
no, so
Yeah, I
bad.
was like, what? I want to see Eli come back and actually win this thing.
Yeah, you love a good underdog story, right?
Right.
I do. I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people hate Tom Brady, right? He's got like a supermodel wife. He's worth $1 billion. He's good looking. He's arrogant a little bit. He's 10 Super Bowl appearances. I'm sure if I'm wrong on that, someone will come at me and correct me.
Yeah,
I said
they'll say
appearances,
something.
not wins, okay?
Right.
But so yeah, to see somebody like Eli, man, listen, I'm the biggest Giants fan. Even both times I didn't think we were going to get to the Super Bowl. And even then I was like,
Right.
well, we're certainly not going to beat an undefeated Patriots team. And then the second time I was like, oh no, like a rematch, like we're not going to win.
Right.
So, I always say like I didn't cry on my wedding day, but I did cry at the 2 Super Bowl wins. So
Wow. Yeah. So, and then, on top of that too, I'm a big Peyton Manning fan as well. So
yeah.
I think he's even funnier now that he's out of football. He's doing these commercials, and I wish he would just do a television show.
Do you watch the Manning cast on ESPN2? Have you watched it yet?
I haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I want to see him like in a sitcom.
Yeah, well, it kind of is. So it's like it's Peyton and Eli,
Okay.
and they do Monday Night Football. They call the game, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of like podcast-esque, and then they'll have
Right.
a guest come on like every quarter, right? And then they just kind of like roll with it. They say like crazy stuff. It's super funny. It's better
Wow.
than any regular broadcast. Yeah, you have to check it out. They renewed them for this year, so it's kind of
What's
like
the name of the show again?
huh?
What's the name of the show again?
It's what do they? I think it's just what is it? Peyton and Eli like call Monday Night Football. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's on ESPN2 for Monday Night Football.
I'm gonna have to go look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to see that. That would be good.
Yeah.
So cool. So for somebody who is trying to get into sportscasting and doing kind of what you're doing, what kind of advice would you give them?
Oh, just start. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just if somebody gives you an opportunity like I had, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try. And if I fail, so be it. I failed, and a lot of the hesitation is kind of what we were talking about,
Right.
Oh, well, you're putting yourself out there and people can come at you and they can say crazy things. And I get that. Believe it or not, I am actually a pretty private person, despite being out there all the time. But like in my personal life and stuff, I am pretty private. So I get if somebody is, super hesitant about starting and being on camera and producing content, because that's hard, and having criticism come at you, nobody likes it. But I will say it's a really supportive group of people out there. And if anyone, male or female, is interested in getting into the sports broadcasting world, 3RD&3 podcast does accept guest contributors, writers, and guest hosts. So if you are interested, my at Nikki Nick 9384, please reach out to me, and we are happy to have you and help you get started and have you on the show. If you're not comfortable, you could turn your camera off. Or if you just want your shot, we're happy to give that to you. Or maybe you're a writer and you just want to write about women's tennis. That would be great. So I am happy to give the opportunity to somebody else. And I would say if you are interested, please just get started. Reach out to anybody. And Twitter is really, really, really great for connecting with people in the sports world, with athletes. Everybody's super interactive. Anybody on a podcast. If you don't like my show, but you want to try somebody else's show, let me know. I can probably get you in touch with somebody. But just so anybody knows, 3RD&3 podcast is absolutely accepting anybody who is interested in breaking into this world of sports and sports content and podcasting.
That is awesome. Thank you for inviting them on. That'd be a lot of fun to do. Yeah, just get out with you guys and just hang out and just talk sports. So if you guys if anybody's out there that's interested in doing that, definitely reach out to Nikki, and that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, we'll get you on. We have we have some people who are interested, and they're going to be coming on the show up here in the next few weeks and doing their first podcast, or getting their first taste of live, or they're doing their first on camera, or their first article. So it's really cool for us to be able to give that opportunity to other people and kind of give back to, people who've supported us and kind of helped us along the way.
Right.
You got to pay it forward.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday. That he's a rapper, and he's actually one of the guys that I worked with, way back when I first started. And he was telling me that he's wanting to get back into rapping. And I told him yesterday, I'm like, the first thing you do, you just got to start. You got to start. When I decided to go back and doing television again, I just had my camera on my phone.
Yeah.
And, the person I was with was like, we should probably have like a professional camera. I'm like, if we wait for a professional camera, it won't get done.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is go sit on a park bench with my phone and start. And then the show just grew from there. 6 months later, we've gotten the, some good equipment, and, we've grown. But that's the whole thing, is that in order for you to advance or move forward, you've got to start. You got to find a place to start. You got to shake off that fear, of whatever it is that's holding you back, and just do it. That's it.
You just have to do it. And, I think, and for me, a lot of it is I'm a workaholic. I'm a perfectionist. Right. And so a lot of it is like, I don't like the way I look on camera. I don't like any pictures of me. And that's 100% true. And I'm just being real with everybody. And maybe that's a woman thing, right? Because we just, the standard is so high, and everybody's expected to look like an Instagram model. And it's like, we don't all look like that. So, it is nerve-wracking sometimes. Guys, sometimes you have it easy. You roll out of bed, pop a baseball cap on, no one says anything, I wouldn't ever dare come on without some makeup on and at least my hair presentable. I have my days, but I think that's part of it too, especially for women. It's nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, because anyone can criticize you and your appearance and whatever. And you don't want that. But again, you take it for where it's coming from. And I think part of this is like, let's show that you could be a real person and do that. You don't have to look like an Instagram model. You can have a great personality and put together an entertaining show, and people will listen and people will watch, and it doesn't have to be perfect. That was my whole thing, was I have to say the right thing because people won't take me seriously. And sometimes I don't say the right thing, and that's okay. It's not going to be perfect, but you need to learn and grow and continue to push yourself, because if you don't, you're just going to be stuck. And believe me, I have been there. I have been stuck. I've been afraid to move. You kind of stay in your comfort zone. But I have really pushed myself the past 2 years, and amazing things happen when you can just kind of push past whatever's holding you back. And sometimes it's silly, and we see I always say I'm my own worst enemy, right? My articles aren't perfect. Oh, that show wasn't perfect. I didn't look great, this and that. I have to tell you, nobody's ever said you look like shit. So well, maybe not now, maybe today, who knows? But, sometimes our fears are just anxiety manifesting in our brain. So, take a step back, maybe try to figure out what that fear is and try to push past it. And like you said, you just can start. You can start with your phone. And if you need a little boost, you come contact us.
Cool. And that's a true statement. I mean, it's just about just getting that first exposure. And then, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And then you look for ways to improve and to grow. It's just, that's part of the process. It's part of the learning process. And so, yeah, I agree with that. And, like I said, I'm glad you guys are opening up where they can, actually come in and, be on the show.
Yeah.
Because that's another resource. It's another opportunity.
Yeah.
For them to be able to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And if it's not 3RD&3, like I said, I do also brand development for Jersey Sporting News. I know that's more of a local thing. But we do have niche podcasts, and we are always looking for writers and hosts. And so, I am affiliated with organizations that want to help people break into this space. So yeah, the opportunity is certainly there if somebody wants it. And you can take your time. Like I said, you don't have to jump on a live camera show and be like crazy like I did. But I just thought, that's my personality. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's go all in. But you can take your time if you want to slowly ease into it. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, cool. So I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
So if you could make a bold prediction for the NFL next year, what would your bold prediction be?
I'm glad you asked me that. So, I answered a Twitter thread. Somebody had said the same thing. Bold, bold NFL predictions for 2022. And I had said, okay, some of these were like Aaron Rodgers leads the Packers to the Super Bowl. So I jumped in there and I was like, none of these are bold. Okay. Like go bold or go home. Like, what do you mean, Aaron? Okay. How is that bold? That's not. Isn't that just an expectation kind of? So, I said that the Giants would win at least 10 games, throw the division into complete chaos, and actually do have an article about to drop probably tonight after this show. I think the Giants defense is going to rank in the top 10, and I have my 5 reasons why that's going to happen. So I'm all in on the Giants surprising this year.
Right. And I think I saw something about that. And the Giants defense was like, they're at the bottom last year, right?
Yeah, they were way at the bottom. So yeah.
So you're predicting they're going to be in the top 10 this year?
I am.
Okay.
And you'll have to stay tuned for why. Catch me on TikTok later. Read the article later. You'll see why. They're not that far off.
Right. And then they've made some pretty good moves in the off season. So yeah, I could see that happening. I can see them getting there.
I hope so, because then we have to do a completely different show together in a few months.
Right. I don't know, man. With the whole off season with the Cowboys, I haven't seen them make enough moves to really excite me yet. So we'll see.
It's been quiet. See how that plays out. How do you feel? What do you think about like an objective about the Cowboys?
Well, I mean, as long as Dak comes back healthy. I think Dak played injured last year. I think that a lot of it showed the way he threw the ball, and he wasn't as explosive as he was prior to the injury. And I think that he did great last year because he did a lot better than anybody expected him to do. Yeah, there was 12-6, 12-6 for the record. So, and he came back from a career, what they thought might be a career-ending injury. Yeah. So for him to take us, 12-6, that was good. But what I'm afraid of, if he's not healthy, that he's going to be like Tony Romo, come back injured, and then that's the end of Dak. You know what I mean? That's kind of what my fear is. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that he's been, for the summer, really taking care of himself, trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
And then, then we got, Diggs, we got Micah, we got a really good lineup. The only other person too that I want to see step up is Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I wish they would have played more of the alternate running game between Pollard and Ezekiel last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get that.
If they would have done that a little bit more and gave Pollard the ball a little bit more, because these two guys are totally different players.
Yeah.
Pollard's a speed player and Ezekiel's power.
Yeah.
If you want short yardage, you use Ezekiel. If you want to get, gain some yards, you use Pollard. And I think they should have utilized that more last year. And I think we would have been better off, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And that's the other thing too, is, you were talking about fantasy leagues, joining the fantasy league. Every year I get to a fantasy league. And one of the things I find that's really funny about a fantasy league is everybody looks at the guy who was the big guy last year.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And then that's the guy they go after. And every year, that's probably the person that gets injured the first.
They get hurt right away. Yeah. I know. I never do that ever.
So, I used to, when I do the fantasy league, I used to go back and look at the players and say, okay, these are who I want. But throughout the years, I just learned that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because from year to year, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming in number one. What's the chances of them winning another Super Bowl?
Well, I'd say if you got Tom Brady, anything's possible. I have learned not to bet against him because I have a couple times and it really burned me. So I learned my lesson. I don't stick my hand on the stove a million times and keep touching a hot stove. No.
At some point, he's going to wear down.
I don't know. He hasn't yet. He's going to be 40. Is he going to be 45 when we start this year? 44, something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Cowboys only lost by 2 points to him in the first game.
True.
So, that was giving me that gave me hope at the beginning of the season. I'm like, hey, I thought we were going to win that game.
How do you watch a game like a Cowboy? Like, are you one of those quiet people who's focused, or are you just like up and like going crazy?
So what we did last year is there's a place called Chills, which is a sports bar and grill.
Okay.
And we just get like a group of people. We'll go out there, and then watch the game. Everybody's screaming and yelling. I mean, the whole place is like,
going crazy.
Yeah. So, and then I have a lot of female friends that I bring in too that never even watched football. That became football fans too, coming in. And so, yeah, we just bring whoever wants to come, just come. Yeah.
And do they, a casual, let's say a casual fan comes, do you convert them to a Cowboy fan? Are you the reason why they're just like populating everywhere? Is that what's going on?
Let's say that if a casual fan comes, next time they come, they're wearing a jersey.
Okay. So your parties are the reason why we just can't,
Yeah, they just come by. As a matter of fact, one of the girls that we invited is a girl that that we work with. After coming to about 2 or 3 of the games, she's a Chicago Bears fan, but by the like 3 or 4 games into it, she has this dog, and her dog was wearing a Cowboys sweater.
No.
Yes, she had a dog wearing a Cowboys sweater.
Come on.
So it's the Cowboys. I can't.
No, listen. I'm going to be in Texas in October for a work convention, and I promise you, I would not convert. No freaking way.
Well, if you're here in October, we'll have to invite you to a game. You have to come with us to a game.
To a Cowboys game?
No, to the Chills, so we can watch it at the. But it'll be a Cowboys game.
No. It's bad enough the Giants and Cowboys have to play each other on Thanksgiving, which I'm very stressed about because I host Thanksgiving, which is stressful enough. Right? And so then it has to be, not only are the Giants playing, they have to play the freaking Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Like, I'm already very stressed about it, and we're months away. But, I'm usually like good and drunk by 4:30, but now I got to pay attention. Might be fantasy implications, playoff implications. But it's going to be a heck of a day for me.
Wow. I'll make sure to text you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you will. I am sure you will. You're good like that.
So, all right, well, cool. So if somebody wants to learn more about you guys, about 3rd and 3, and some of the others, the other shows that you have, how could they get a hold of you?
So anybody can reach out to me at NikkiNick9384. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm usually pretty good at answering my messages and DMs, although some of you get a little crazy. So, watch that. But anybody can reach out to me. I will answer you. You guys can visit 3RD&3podcast.com. You can always shoot us an email there. A message, we'll get it. And you can also message at 3rd and 3 podcast on Twitter. One of us will see your message and we will answer it. And if you are in need of marketing services, you can visit hellogreenmarketing.com And I can help you with that too. So
Awesome.
many different ways that I can help you, but specifically if you want sports, reach out to me, reach out to the podcast. One of the three of us will absolutely answer you and get right back to you.
Cool. And then I'll post all that information on the bottom of your interview as well, so that they can reach out to you.
Cool. All right.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
I've
thanks
been
for
really
having
looking
me.
forward to it. Yeah, it's just, just be able to sit and talk to somebody about sports, and then get from your perspective. It's just, I'm just glad you came on. It was just.
Well, I had to after. Then I found out you were a Cowboys fan. Give me a little bit of a hard time. I was like, yeah, I'll do your show. Sure.
I was going to wear my Dak jersey, but I decided not to.
Maybe if we do a Thanksgiving preview show, maybe we'll have to each wear our own jerseys.
That'll work right there. We'll do that.
Okay, we'll do that.
Well, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for opening up the opportunity for the resources to help someone who's also interested too. So
of course. All
right. Well, cool. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being on the show today. Watching and tuning in. Remember, you're uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Until next week. Peace.
Guys, it's Nikki with 3RD&3 Podcast and Jersey Sporting News. So I guess that makes me officially syndicated. Lucky for you guys, you get me in more than one place now. They just dropped my latest article called Jets or Giants Can Either Team Surprise This Season. You can catch the full article at 3RD&3podcast.com or jerseysportingnews.com. Just to give you guys a tiny little quick preview, I am super excited about all the talent that the Jets have this year. And I think the fan base should be too. You guys haven't had this much talent since 2009, 2010. My concern here for the Jets is their super tough schedule. Weeks 1 through 9 look absolutely horrific, and it really sucks that they have to open against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So I know they won 4 games last season. You'll have to check out the article to see how many wins they gave them this season. So for my Giants, I'm actually optimistic about this offensive line. I think it's coming together quite nicely. Evan Neal at the right, Andrew Thomas on the left. It's going to help solidify the run game. We all know how important the run game is. So I am a little concerned though about the secondary and Daniel Jones. Obviously, this whole season is riding on Daniel Jones. I personally think we have seen all we need to see out of him, and this is exactly why I think you don't draft quarterbacks out of Duke. So, Giants also won 4 games last season. Check out the article, see how many wins they give him this season. I will say the advantage to being in the NFC East is that it is a little muddled until the end of the season. All right, would love to hear what you guys think. Check out the full article, 3RD&3podcast.com, jerseysportingnews.com. Hit me up on social media, all platforms, at NikkiNick9384. Let me know if you agree with me.